Inattentive ADHD. Inattentive ADHD is not exactly as known in the same capacity as hyperactive and combined type. So I wanted to make a video on a couple of suggestions I have for a lot of inattentive types out there. After working with a lot of inattentive types, I've kind of realized that we share a lot of the same characteristics, particularly about going places and being around people sometimes, because that can make us feel quite bad. And there's different reasons for it. And obviously, this doesn't include everyone. A lot of people with inattentive ADHD, a good amount of people perhaps, like to go out and be around other people. It all depends on the personality type and the characteristics that ensue. I have a couple of videos on that, if anyone is interested to check out on the channel. Videos on the personality type and a lot of the time what having ADHD can do and how that can sort of bring us down and expose our negative characteristics. So, anyway, this video entails some of the stuff to consider when we go somewhere, when we meet someone, or before we decide to do something. These are things that I myself have worked on a good amount of my life, considering that when I go somewhere, I'm pretty selective about where I go. I'm pretty selective about who I hang out with. I'm not a really social person. I like helping people, but I don't like socializing much. So this video is going to be biased in a more introverted perspective. So if you're an extrovert, this video might not be for you. It might be, I don't know. So if that doesn't sound like your cup of tea, you don't have to watch it. But if you're an introvert like me, and or if you have inattentive ADHD and seem to have trouble going places or being around people, then these are a couple of things you can consider to help you out. I originally wasn't planning on making this video tonight, considering I'm not exactly in the best of moods right now for various reasons, but I figure this has to do with the video, so let me make the video so I can really, get connected to these principles I'm going to be talking about, these considerations. So, point number one, or consideration number one. When you go out somewhere, you're going to ask yourself, or you should ask yourself, are there situations or people that are going to make me feel really sad, anxious, and or embarrassed? A couple of things with that point you can ask yourselves are, what type of environment will this be? What type of people will be there? Do I have a way to leave as soon as possible if I need to? Is there going to be someone there to be supportive if I need them? All these things make a really big difference, considering a lot of us with inattentive ADHD also have RSD, so we can get bummed out pretty easy. If we're trying to connect with multiple people and we just can't seem to do it for various reasons, that might make us feel bad. If we try to do a nice connection or gesture with somebody and it just doesn't work out for whatever reason, or if we feel that how they respond to us is just, a bit more hurtful, that could destroy the entire evening. That could make the person with the condition want to leave immediately. Also, the type of people that will be there. Will this be a lively environment? Will this be a calm environment? Is there going to be a lot of energy, a lot of extroverts doing backflips, breathing fire and this and that for the introvert? Can the introvert handle it? Or is the extrovert sort of, back and forth between introverted? Certain things can make certain extroverts feel a bit more introverted, so you gotta know what type of people will be there, what type of environment. Is it a poppin' party where everyone's going nuts? Or is it a more calm environment? And if you can't tell until you get there, well, then you just gotta take the chance. But if you already know what type of place this will be, and if you're going to this event for the sake of a friend or doing someone a favor, get yourself mentally ready for that. It's good to get yourself mentally prepared. And if you're not aware of RSD, rejection sensitive dysphoria, like I mentioned earlier, I have a whole video about that in ADHD. how that affects us, because that makes going to places a gamble a lot of the time. Because some people can easily just make you feel bad. Certain places and certain environments can just make you feel bad right away too, for various reasons. And sometimes, unfortunately, someone with the condition can be at a location and can be around people that don't exactly make them feel well for whatever reason, and they have to remain there for hours on end because they came with a friend. You gotta be mindful of that. If you're gonna go somewhere and you feel like you might need to leave, well, nowadays there's Ubers and Lyfts and all this and that, but if you're gone with a group of friends or, a friend of yours, it's advised that you be the one driving, because then you're calling the shots, so to speak. So if you want to leave, and let's say you go to a place, be considerate if you go with a friend. At least stay there for an hour or so. And then after, let your friend know that you don't want to be there anymore. If you don't want to be there anymore, because if you have RSD and if you have the condition too, you don't have to force yourself to be somewhere where people are going to be treating you that bad and making you feel that bad. If you're doing it for a friend or doing it as a favor, that's a different story. But if you're just there just because, you don't have to submit yourself to any of that. Have a way to get out of there, leaving, and go home, or just somewhere where the environment is not going to make you feel that bad. You don't have to succumb to that. It's a problem I had for a long time. Is I would go someplace with friends, and the place would have no intellect. I don't like being in environments where the intellect is low, where people are acting brash and low, where morals are to the floor. I don't like any of that stuff. So unfortunately, I had to be dragged to environments like that, where for simply not being like everybody else, got other people to think negatively of me. So you don't have to endure any of that if you have the condition. If you have a means to leave that get-together, that place or event, do so. But if you're doing it for a friend as a favor, then just prepare yourself mentally so it doesn't surprise you all that much. And for some people, they need a friend or somebody supportive for them at this get-together. RSD is pretty hardcore for some of us. When we feel bad, we might not have the stamina or emotional strength to kind of get ourselves together, or pull ourselves together to be able to get up and leave, or to say what we need to say. So sometimes it's helpful to have someone supportive there for you, who can perhaps help you out and take you home, or take you off to the side and give you a little pep talk or something. So there are a couple of things you can consider for that point. Consideration number 2. Am I going to feel really drained and exhausted during, after, or both? A couple of points with that consideration would be, did you get enough rest? Are you aware of how exhausting this activity will be? Will it be emotionally, socially, or physically exhausting? If you're really tired or haven't gotten enough rest, it's not ideal for you to go to an event, a place where you can easily be annoyed or irritated. When you lack sleep, a lot of your neurotransmitters are going to be lower in their capacity, particularly the reward system in this instance. So your dopamine's down, your motivation and drive is just going to be low. And if your serotonin levels are low, you might be moody or quite anxious. So it might not be the best thing. So an ideal thing you could do is take yourself a solid nap, for an hour or two to get yourself some rest. Or if you don't have the chance to do that, then don't go to this event or this place or whatever, because you're not going to be at your best. And if you really want to socialize and you're just like, oh, I'm okay, then by all means go. But for those of us who feel like they're pushing themselves, and then they get to the get-together and they're walking around like the Walking Dead, and they can't really say anything, they're fumbling through their words, and they're just tired and like emotionless, there's no need to do that. There will be other get-togethers and whatnot. And yet again, if you're pushing yourself for a favor, for a friend, or for somebody, well, then that's different. But if it's just for you, understand that you don't need to put yourself in those scenarios. Those scenarios can really bring upon some pretty hardcore events. If you go somewhere tired and someone says the wrong thing to you, you might go off on them. You might get in a really bad mood and say something you don't mean, which might trigger somebody else, and a whole fight can break out. Or you can really hurt someone's feelings, or you can really be hurtful and say something you don't mean to somebody. And then someone will say something back to you, and that'll hurt you even more, and then it just escalates. And unfortunately, it can break out in a fight at that point. So, make sure you get yourself some rest. And be aware of how exhausting this event or activity you're going to be doing is going to be to you if you're conditioned. If you know you're going to be exhausted, either emotionally, socially, physically, or what have you, prepare yourself for that. Prepare yourself with that cognitively, or, by thinking about it and knowing, okay, I'm expecting this to happen. I got to get myself mentally prepared. Or just be selective about the things that you do once you get to the get-together. You don't have to take in everything a lot of the time. Be considerate of yourself. And if you're a parent or a friend or a significant other of someone who has inattentive ADHD, in this case, you got to be considerate of them. A lot of people with inattentive ADHD got partners that sometimes nag their inattentive ADHD partner and tell them negative things, and they think that the person with inattentive ADHD, the partner with inattentive ADHD, they think that they never want to go out, they never want to go places or be around other people. Well, let me tell you something. When you get a job and a very busy schedule, you feel exhausted after all that, the last thing you want to do is come home and socialize some more. When the weekend comes, a lot of people with inattentive ADHD need to, catch up on their sleep. Because a lot of people with inattentive ADHD, according to my research and from the people I work with, mentioned to me that they have trouble with sleep. Either falling asleep, staying asleep, getting enough deep sleep, or all the above. So, getting a rest is really important. Also, being aware of the toll that these different things will have on you at this set event or place, or the activity. You gotta be aware of it, and you gotta be prepared for it too, because, again, having a rejection-sensitive dysphoria, some of these things can really get you out of whack, and can really get you in a bad place. So you don't want to treat other people harshly just because you don't feel all that good. So you might as well be a little more precautious with that. So, do yourself a favor. And if you're a parent of someone with the condition, don't force your son or daughter with the condition to go to some of these things if you know that they have a choice not to, or that they don't have to. Pushing someone with inattentive ADHD to be around instances like this where they're just being drained emotionally, socially, and physically, and if they're not feeling good that day, if they haven't eaten, they haven't slept enough, it's really tough. As a parent, you gotta really be considerate of them. And granted, there'll be other events and other get-togethers and whatnot, so be understanding if you're a parent, if you're a friend or significant other of somebody with a condition. People with inattentive ADHD feel bad. Sometimes, quite frequently throughout the week. Once we feel good, we feel, finally, okay? We feel okay. And then going out there, somewhere, some event around people we might not know, it's a gamble. Because all those elements involved can make us feel bad in some way or another. Some of them quite a lot, and some of them not that much. But it's a gamble. You can go from feeling great to feeling absolutely horrible within seconds. Is that really a risk worth having? You gotta balance it out. You don't gotta be an extremist either and not go anywhere. Or not, take your kids, your family member anywhere. But you gotta be mindful of where it is when it is, and how the individual is when they go there. It's being considerate. It's hard to be considerate of someone with a condition that not so many people are aware of or even understand. Inattentive ADHD is a very misunderstood type of ADHD. When the general individual hears ADHD, they just think of hyperactive ADHD. And they think that only kids have it and it goes away when you're an adult. That's just scratching the surface. There is so much more to ADHD. When it comes to neurochemistry, the gene mutations we have, the symptoms, and how each of the different subtypes affect us. So, the inattentive subtype is a pretty rare subtype of ADHD. So, it's good to learn about this so you can be considerate to your friend, your family member that has inattentive ADHD, so you don't have to keep pushing them to go amongst these situations where they really don't have to. Or at least they don't have to in that day or in that instance. They can do it at some other point. It's just being considerate. Consideration number 3. How irritated or annoyed will I be during or afterward? What is the likelihood that someone is going to really upset me? How often am I going to be annoyed at this event? Are there people at this event with bad intentions to upset you? A lot of the time when you go somewhere, certain people take an individual not speaking as that person having an ego problem. People who think like that, generally speaking, are quite ignorant or come from a culture where going and saying hello and speaking and all this and that is like a requirement. It's not a requirement. We are all very different people who come from very different cultures. The way of one culture, a lot of the times, is not the way of the other one. We just gotta be considerate to each other. Don't force your stuff on anybody else. I can't tell you how many times I've been to places where I haven't wanted to speak for various reasons, whether it's because I find the people there annoying or because I know someone's gonna make me feel bad on purpose. So if someone with inattentive ADHD doesn't want to talk when they go somewhere, don't bother them. You give them the space that they need. And when they're ready to talk, they will. And if they don't want to, well then maybe they shouldn't have gone to the event in the first place. That's going back to the previous consideration where you gotta be, as someone with inattentive ADHD, you gotta be understanding that, hey, I might not feel too good, but you're not going to go and make other people feel bad on purpose. Or you're not going to put yourself out there if you're not at your best. Ideally, it's not something that's suggested. If you're not feeling too good, you shouldn't be putting yourself in situations where you're not going to be feeling good or where it's going to make it worse. There's a lot of ego-bound people out there that might just want to troll you, make you feel bad. They just might be envious of you for one reason or another. And there's other people who just want to bother you and just make you feel bad. If you feel there's going to be a lot of people like that at some get-together or place you're going to, don't go. You don't have to do a lot of these things. A lot of these things are optional. Sometimes you can't escape this. And sometimes you can. You gotta just look at when a place is really busy as opposed to when a place is not. For instance, it'll be a cold day in hell before you ever find me in a supermarket when it's packed. I absolutely hate going to the market when there's a ton of people there. The second person that bumps into my shopping cart, I need to get out of here as soon as possible. I don't like being in a loud, very crowded type of places unless I'm at a concert or playing a concert myself. So I make sure to go to the market at hours when it's not packed and full. I don't want to put myself in a situation where the odds are that I'm not going to end up feeling good. So if you know there's going to be things and situations and people that are going to get you upset or annoyed, you want to try to limit that as much as possible by either not attending this thing, going to it when it's less packed, or going to it when you have taken care of yourself, when you have taken care of your sleep and you've had a solid meal, because otherwise it can be very tough. And what can end up happening is that a parent or a friend can keep on bringing someone with inattentive ADHD to a place. And if they keep bringing them there and they keep seeing their inattentive friend or partner getting upset and being moody, they might just start thinking, hey, this person is just, a negative individual. I don't want to bring him out to anything anymore. And then they're probably not going to want to, call you anymore or be your friend either. If that happens, then let it be. That's fine. If you're going to be an acquaintance or friend, or if you're going to get close to somebody, you have to have that boundary that they have to understand your condition, your inattentive ADHD. If you're the type of individual who has inattentive ADHD and goes out of their way for other people, and you have all people walk all over you, or you don't stand up for your condition because you feel other people aren't going to believe you or they're not going to understand, tell them about these things. Talk to your friends or close ones and family members about the inattentive ADHD and what it does to you at places. Try to improve yourself. Don't just try to remain the same. If you got to be doing something to try to improve yourself. If you're doing nothing and expect others to do a lot, that's a load of nonsense. It goes both ways. You got to try to change. You got to try to improve. That increases the likelihood that those working with you are going to want to try to help you out by improving themselves. But if you do nothing and you expect others to do a lot, don't expect anything back a lot of the time. There's no mandatory reason why you have to go to certain events and be around people and whatnot if you don't want to. You don't have to if you don't want to. Like I said before, if you're doing a favor, you're being kind to somebody, or you're there because of your company or whatever, then you got to do what you got to do. But if it's optional, you don't have to do that. The places you go, the people you surround yourself with, the friends and whatnot, if they're not helping you out, if they're not of support to you, and if you get the chance, you need to alter that. If you're hanging around with individuals where you tell them about your condition and they laugh at you, or if they don't take you seriously, or if you notice that they're doing nothing to try to help you out after you've asked them repeatedly to help you out, you know what you got to do? You cut the relationship with those people. Oh, but that's my friend. It doesn't matter. If someone, a friend or whomever, in this instance, is causing you harm after you have asked them repeatedly to please be considerate of these things of my condition, and if they don't believe you, and if they don't want to help you out, then you need to get better friends and better associates. If it's a family member of yours, a parent, or a significant other that does not believe you or doesn't want to hear you about this, then you can show them this video or any other ADHD video where people talk about these things that we go through. So the family member, the friend, the parent, whomever can see that others go through the struggles that you do as someone with inattentive ADHD. We can't expect people to be considerate of us if they're not aware of the struggles that we got, the issues that we have as people with inattentive ADHD. So get the word out there. I have tons of other videos on inattentive ADHD on here, on my channel. And there's a bunch that other people have on YouTube as well. Get yourself informed. And if you're not getting your ADHD managed, go get yourself evaluated, seek treatment, and then start taking supplements along with that treatment. It'll really, really help you out. And if you need to do some therapy with your healthcare professional or what have you, They offer that in a lot of hospitals here in the U.S. So if you're getting treatment for your condition, there's going to be a lot of thought reframing and new things and new habits you're going to have to implement and learn. Medication is not a end all be all. Oh, the ADHD problems are solved. Same thing with supplements. You still have to put in the effort, and you still have to change your habits, and still have to dictate a schedule and a regimen and stick to it. And this is very hard if we have ADHD. And this is even harder if we're not doing anything to help our ADHD out. So we got to get our condition under control first and foremost before we really can get almost anything else under control. We got to get our condition under control in order to be able to organize our lives well enough to implement some of the points that we discussed in this video. The surroundings you're in, the people you interact with, the people that are close to you in your life, the friends, the family members, etc., all that has a big effect on you. Surround yourself with situations, places, and people that are going to be just as good to you as you're going to be to them. People are going to be considerate of the troubles that you have with the condition. And not people who are going to use you and who are going to manipulate you. Or people who don't have the maturity to be able to tell you things, or to be able to emotionally come to grips with certain things, or come talk to you about it. I can't tell you how many people in my life don't have any of those things together. What ends up happening is that in the long run, I and people like me end up getting hurt. We end up getting annoyed, we end up getting irritated, and the cycle continues. So what you got to do is you got to sever those relationships and cut those friendships off and take those people out of your life. Having intensive ADHD is hard enough. Having it with fools and other unbalanced people in situations that are going to make it even harder is not going to make it any easier. So you don't have to do all of these, but it would be wise to start implementing some of the tactics mentioned in this video. I hope some of these points bring some light and information to you, and I hope you can implement them, and I hope you can get the help that you need. Because having inattentive ADHD can be very sad. It can be very isolative, very irritating, and just a big sense of apathy for a lot of people. So it doesn't have to be like that all the time. It doesn't have to be like that even a small amount of the time. It's the decisions we make and the people around us and the situations around us that can really make or break that. So, it's your life. Try to take it easy on yourself. Aim to improve. But at the same time, don't make your life any much more harder than it already is. And if you're someone who doesn't have inattentive ADHD but is listening to this for a friend, a family member, a partner, understand that this is something that we have to ask ourselves. All these things, not all of us, but a good amount of us, we have to ask ourselves these things before we go anywhere. Because we know how sad, how upset, how disappointed we can get going somewhere, getting close to someone, telling someone about something, and then not receiving what we feel we should get out of the event, the person, the circumstance, whatever it may be. A lot of people don't understand this condition. They're not going to be considerate of you a lot of the time, not because they're messed up people, but just because this condition is not really known. The mainstream doesn't really talk about it. So it's going to be hard for people to really understand you or your friend, partner, family member with this condition. So I just wanted to put this out there. Just so more people can have more consideration for other people with inattentive ADHD. It's not easy. And a lot of other people out there make the condition very hard. I know certain people in my life have made my condition very difficult, have upset me, have saddened me, and have disappointed me time and time again. Throughout my 20s, I eliminated a lot of people from my life. I stopped talking to them, and I will continue to do that, even more so now as I get older. The older I get, the busier I get, the further I go with my career, the more time I want to dedicate to ADHD, to the research, to doing these videos, to seminars, to this film I'm working on. I really want to show more people about this condition so people can stop suffering that have ADHD. It's a very, very misunderstood condition. So in order for me to feel motivated and pumped up, I can't have myself going to places where I'm frequently going to be made to feel bad. And to have people who are going to continuously be inconsiderate of me and only do things because it makes them feel good and just leave me in the corner, so to speak. So I have to cut ties with a lot of people and a lot of places and situations and whatnot. But that's perfectly okay with me, because when I do have to be around certain people or go to certain places, because we can't avoid not going to places we don't want to go to sometimes, I am mentally prepared. I think about these things and I get myself prepared, and I try to make the situation and outcome as pleasant and as enjoyable as I can. Because otherwise it gets pretty bad. I can get pretty down, I can get pretty upset and disappointed, saddened, and I just don't want to be there. So when that does happen, I know when to leave, and I know that I can leave. And I don't have to remain there. I don't have to remain friends with this individual. I don't have to keep going to this environment. I don't have to keep seeing these friends. I don't have to keep seeing whatever. You're not forced to do any of those things. And if you have a parent that keeps forcing you to do those things, talk to your parent about it. And if you're a partner, if you're married or in a relationship and your partner doesn't understand these things you're going through, tell them about it. Perhaps show them this video or some other ADHD-related video. This information needs to get out there. And I'm sorry that I wasn't my jolly, usual upbeat self, but I wanted to make this video in this certain mood so people can really hear the frustration in my voice as someone with inattentive ADHD as well, that these things happen and they bum us out pretty heavily. So we need to help ourselves out, and we need to help our fellow brothers and sisters, whatever have you. We need to help each other out. Big ADHD tribe, so to speak. Inattentive ADHD isn't really known. Get the information out there. Help yourself out. Help your friend, your partner, whomever out there has this condition. With knowledge and together, we can really get this stuff out there. I hope this video helped you out, and I hope you can implement some changes in your life so you don't have to feel too down or too angry or too sad and too often, because you don't deserve that. Life is a beautiful, blessed thing. I truly believe that. I love my life, and I feel very blessed with the things that I have and what I've done and where I'm going, what I'm doing. But at the same time, when it gets down, it gets really, really down. And it's not good, because this discourages, it brings down the reward system, and you don't want to work on other things. So for me, as for my example, there's certain things, relationships, and whatnot that I put aside, and it really helps me out. You don't need to keep those negative characteristics around your life. It's your life. Be considerate of yourself, but also be considerate of others. There's a balance that we should seek, and I hope you can find that. This is Wilhelm, your ADHD comrade, over and out.